of the rim. Got it! Oh, the slam foul. Using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Let's have a conversation about the 2024 Western Conference really fast, because I feel like yesterday on playback was the first time that I actually looked at the teams listed out and realized, somebody is missing the playoffs. Of course, that always happens, but I mean somebody, actual somebody, which is, I guess, par for the course in the modern era with the West. I feel like the West is habitually the stronger conference with some flip-flop years in between. Just in general, though, we know it as the Wild West, and that is definitely the case this year, because when you list it out, right now where we stand with the rosters healthy, everyone there, I feel like there are 11 playoff worthy rosters, 11 very much playoff worthy rosters, and there's only 8 spots. I guess that's not too different from the 23 season. You look at the 8 teams that made it, the Pelicans, who very much could have if they had been healthy. The Mavericks made that trade late. They ended up 6 games under 500. They did not make it. Still, I would say they were a team that was expected to. The Thunder started without Chet, which kind of threw a wrench in their plans, and they still ended up very close to 500. Then, of course, there was Portland. They hadn't actually missed the playoffs in a healthy Dame year. That means coming into it, we could have reasonably expected them to be there. All right, that's all good and fair. Now I'm looking at the 2024 standings and basing off of what's happened this summer and what happened last season. The flat out playoff worthy rosters right now would be the Kings. They had a great run. They went out in the first round. They could have very easily made it to the second. Suns, for obvious reasons. Yeah, I don't believe in the Clippers anymore, but that's a playoff worthy roster. We're up to 3. Lakers were just in the conference finals. The Thunder, we just talked about, very nearly 500 last year without even having Chet. I don't feel weird in saying that this is a playoff worthy roster right now. Golden State, that's an obvious one. We're at 6. The Pelicans, if they have Ingram and Zion for any amount of time, again, that was kind of like a top 5, top 4 worthy team to me last year. That's 7. The Timberwolves made the playoffs. I'm expecting another jump from Ant. That's 8. The Dallas Mavericks get a full year of Kyrie Irving. That's no matter what you think might happen with that situation, I cannot say that that isn't a playoff worthy roster. That's 9. The world champion Denver Nuggets at 10. The Grizzlies at 11. Even then, as it stands, I don't think Portland is a terrible roster. Out of the teams here, I don't know if it's playoff worthy. Spurs got Wemby, that's cool, still rebuilding. Then you got the Jazz and the Rockets. And hell, for the first month or 2 of the season last year, the Jazz were playoff worthy, so who knows what's gonna happen then. I will stick with 11 playoff worthy rosters though. Okay, but having a playoff worthy roster does not make you a lock. Out of these teams we just talked about, who really is a lock? Well, to determine that, obviously the season is going to have to play out. I think that injuries are going to play heavily into this. Not wishing injury, just saying the first team to sustain injury is probably going to be the one that falls to the bottom. Then that kind of makes you look at, well, which teams are likely to be injured. That's something you should factor in. Without having a crystal ball, however, for locks here, I would say the Denver Nuggets, Suns. I'm gonna lock the Lakers in, even with their injury history. I'm just going, they had hella problems last year. They didn't make that trade until late. They still made the playoffs and the conference finals. Maybe it's risky given how many times AD falls in a season. Still, I'm gonna lock the Lakers up here. I feel comfortable locking Golden State. That's still a playoff team. Maybe I didn't have them on my contenders list. That does not mean I don't think this core 3 plus whatever Chris Paul brings is not a playoff team and not a playoff lock. I think they can get there. Sorry, I know they will get there. They've spent time without Curry before and still made it. If Curry went out for whatever reason, you'd have Paul running the point guard. They can figure it out. That's 4 locks. I feel comfortable locking Sacramento in. Once again, not a contending team. It's a really good team, and I would say they finished higher than they were supposed to last season. The last lock that I would go with here, and I still feel funny about it given that they lost one of the best backup point guards in the league, I guess I'm going to lock the Grizzlies. We just talked about the teams with injuries and those being the ones to float to the bottom. Well, they have a de facto injury with 25 games that have been missed of Ja Morant, and the natural counterpoint will be to say, well, they have historically been been really good without Ja, and I still want to point out that they had one of the best backup point guards at that time. They do not have that anymore. I feel like that matters. They did bring in Derrick Rose. Of course, you brought in Marcus Smart. I still trust in them enough to win games, but that's why I feel funny about having them as a lock. That's why my tone sounds the way it does. And that's really as far as I will go. I would say 6 locks here. 5.5 in a conference where I assume you might have the 3rd seed and the 9th seed separated by 2 games for a lot of the season anyways. Once you get to the end and things start sorting themselves out, it becomes probably around 5 at that point. For a lot of the season though, it will be razor thin margins. And knowing that information, although the Los Angeles Clippers are clearly a contending roster when everyone is there, we know they're going to sneak some load management into the season. And if one of their 2 stars or both of their stars go out, as they have done the last few years, they could easily get knocked into that play-in round somewhere near the bottom. That's pretty much what happened in the 2022 season. I just won't call them a lock given their history. That's pretty much the same reason I can't lock the Pelicans up. We might get beautiful Zion basketball for 20 games and never see him again. I'm not calling the Mavs a lock until I know what a full season of Kyrie and Luka looks like, and if Kyrie is actually going to work out there. We know how funny those situations can get very quickly. And even if everything goes right technically, I still wonder about the on-court play between Kyrie and Luka. They still kind of have to learn how to play together in a winning manner. I love Anthony Edwards. I still can't call the Wolves a lock. They're also a team that has quietly dealt with injuries in the last 2 seasons that have significantly affected their standings. OKC is going to be a lot of fun. They still have a lot to prove. I could not put them in the lock category yet. They haven't even made the playoffs as of this time. And then the rest of the teams even making the playoffs would just have to be some large surprise. That goes for Portland, that goes for Wemby and San Antonio, and the Jazz and Rockets. So that's kind of how I view the Western Conference going into it. I think there are 5 or 6 locked up teams. I think there are 11 playoff worthy teams. Either way, this is going to make for a beautiful and dramatic season. It will literally just be a fight of who is really, really good chemistry wise and who's healthy. Who can figure those things out the fastest? Once you start fighting for that 5th through 8th spot, that is a fight that will last until the last day of the season. Either way, because of the math, somebody's team who probably should not be missing the playoffs is going to miss the playoffs. Pretty reminiscent of that 2015-2014 Western Conference, whichever year that was. This feels very much like a year where there will be Eastern Conference teams in the playoffs that shouldn't be there and West team sitting at home. I'm here for the chaos. Let me know what you think about this year's West. Who do you think will be at the top? Who do you think are the locks? Do you have different playoff worthy teams than I do? Kind of doubt it. If you do though, leave that in the comment section. Also hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed, while hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.